اليوم مع التطور الكبير اللي نعيشه نلاحظ إنه الذكاء الاصطناعي أو ال AI صار داخل أو متداخل في كثير من الأعمال والخدمات وغيرها. إذن في هذه الجلسة سنتحدث أكثر عن الذكاء الاصطناعي ومدى تأثيره على تحليل البيانات في دعم الخدمات اللوجستية مع البروفيسور مايكل بورلاكس. تفضل.
Okay, good morning or good afternoon to everybody. Thank you so much for the warm welcome to come here and represent the Tشارترد Institute of Logistics and Transport. My name is Professor Maikel Bourlakis, so I'm here to make a presentation around AI, data analytics, and I'll be happy to connect with you later on to discuss about the Institute, about what we do. But equally, I'll make a presentation to showcase some of the important things we face in the area of logistics and transport. The Institute is one of the leading logistics institutes in the world. We operate in around 40 countries, and we have more than 35,000 members. So it's a leading institute, as you'll see. And before I make a start, in terms of issues in this presentation, I would like to say a couple of things about myself. I'm the vice president in the institute, but on top of that, I have a main job. I'm a professor of logistics and supply chain management at Cranfield University in the UK. Some of you may have heard about Cranfield in logistics. It's a leading university, and I'm the head of the team there. I'm the head of the logistics team, and also director of research for the whole school. My area of expertise is very much around three areas: food, grocery, and retail supply chain, sustainability, which is becoming so important nowadays, and digital supply chains. That's why today I'll be discussing about AI and analytics. As a professor, as an academic, I have published quite a few papers. You can have a look to my profile later on at Cranfield if you wish. Involved with many projects, research and consulting projects, and I've been working with many, many companies all over the world. Carrefour, which as far as I know operates in Saudi Arabia. I've seen Carrefour the past few days. DHL, Knight Frank, an estate company, Leonardo in the defense sector, and so on. And I've been in the UK for 30 years. I've been working a lot with the government around policy issues, with Department of Transport, Department of Food and Environment and Rural Affairs, and so on. So let's crack on with the presentation. And there are many things to discuss, many things to cover here today, but the key trends in supply chain, the way I see that, is risk and resilience. We have so many risks to consider, whether the risks relate to the climate, to the environment, to geopolitical uncertainty, to economic uncertainty, and I'll be discussing about that later on in the presentation. Consumer is driving supply chains. So at Cranfield, my colleague, Professor Martin Christopher, has said it's not supply chain management, it's demand chain management, because the consumer drives the supply chain. So therefore, we try to personalize, to customize what we do for the consumer. We have to be driven by consumer demand. And equally, sustainability is a big issue. We discussed about CE, circular economy. We discuss about sustainability goals, environment sustainability goals, and so on. And of course, what is the topic of my presentation today? We discuss about digital transformation, data, and analytics. So, something which it's a very well-known radar by DHL, so the copyright to DHL, I cannot claim that, is the DHL Logistics Trends Radar. So as you will see in this slide here, you have on the very upper part, high impact, on the low part, the low impact. You have social and business trends on the left part, and technological trends on the right part. And whatever we'll be discussing today and tomorrow, any technology or digital aspect is in this slide. Whether it's about AI, robotics, metaverses, you name it, it's here. Some of those will take place in the next 5 years. Some others will take place in the next 10 years. For example, if you see about drones, on the right part, it's going to have a big impact to some extent now, but a major impact in the next 10 years. Equally, if you are looking about analytics, higher impact, and it's happening right now. So you will see, we have in this slide all the digital transformation issues, and when it's going to happen, when it's going to have an impact. So digital transformation, what is all about? We're discussing about technology, business models, processes, and of course we're discussing about digitization, which is very much around digital issues, conversion. We also discuss about digitalization, which is very much around the process to be able to adapt. And of course, the big issue is the relevance to a business model, the relevance to industry, how to make it happen in a business. So it's very much how to create value for a business, and that's what we'll discuss about transformation here. So, when we discuss about digital transformation, we have discussed about the process, because supply chains, we're discussing about processes, whether that's about warehousing or transportation or any others. Equally, because we're discussing about the business, is how we make a difference to a business model and how we transform, we change, we adapt, we improve the business model through digital transformation. We're discussing about domain transformation, around domain, the context of websites or analytics. But more importantly, what we have to appreciate is the organization transformation. So how to design the organization, how to design to have the right supply chain logistics issues, how to change it, how to make it happen. So the organization transformation in the business is critical here. We shouldn't forget that. So, focusing on supply chain operations and digital transformation, on the left side, we have traditional supply chain, as you'll see. So in the very beginning, we're getting lots of data, but we don't know how much to do out of that, how to make sense, how to add value out of the data. We have different technologies, can be cloud computing, cloud infrastructure, to make sense of that. We may have big data analytics, how to be able to analyze the data and make a difference. IoT, Internet of Things, which brings all the technologies in this part of the process. But the big difference that it can make is the digital transformation and to move to the digital supply chains. And based on my experiences, many companies discuss about how to have that journey make happen, but the very few are able to make it happen. And that's what it's all about. That's a big problem here, or the big challenge, to be honest with you. So, discussing about transformation around cloud computing, we have different providers here around cloud computing. The most important ones across the world are Amazon Web Services, Azure, Google Cloud, Oracle, and others. So you'll see the market share, worldwide market share. And all of that try to make an impact, whether you're discussing about on a company, on the premise. So you'll see the impact, especially on the blue and dark blue or gray aspects. So on the blue, you have managed by your company, applications, data, operation systems, and so on. You move to infrastructure as service, where many of those are run by this cloud infrastructure and this service provider, like Amazon and Oracle. Then you move to platform as service, and then the most advanced aspect is what we call SaaS, or software as service, when everything can be managed by this cloud infrastructure and these providers. Very few companies are on the right part. Most of those are probably the middle, and very, very few on the early stages. But that's what the objective, to move as software as service to be able to support all your activities in this kind of spectrum. So discussing about AI, because my presentation is very much around AI and analytics, is not something we're discussing for the first time. AI did start a long time ago, 1943, about artificial intelligence, and therefore we're discussing about how to make sense through artificial, through kind of extra knowledge, not human, but knowledge given by computers and computer science, okay? And after that, 1959, machine learning, deep learning, and generative AI, which everybody's discussing nowadays. So you'll see that machine learning is nothing new, neither new, has been around for some time. Try to understand and build on current experience, existing experience, and try to improve performance around a specific task. So as you'll see, generative AI is something which is built over the decades and try to make a difference here. So AI is supporting the analysis of data or data analytics. So you'll see the evolution here in this slide. So in the very beginning of this transformation, we're discussing about descriptive analytics. So what happened in the past? Equally, the next stage will be diagnostic analytics. Try to diagnose, to understand why this happened through data. These two reflect on the past, but looking to the future, we're discussing about predictive analytics. What will happen in the future? You have the data, so you try to understand what will make sense in the future. You are a retailer, for example, or a manufacturer. You have all the sales data. You try to understand and predict about prices, the best price to offer, the best promotion to offer, the best product to offer, thinking ahead. And that's the key part of analytics nowadays. And of course, the next stage is predictive analytics. So what shall we do to move on? So all of these things are becoming more and more interesting, more challenging, and that's the science of analytics. Try to predict the future than try to understand the past. Building on the past for the future, if that makes sense. So, in the real context, in a industry context, in a business context, you have lots of data. Back in the UK, I've been working very closely with many companies, especially with big retailers, and the amount of data here can be scary. Tesco, for example, one of the biggest retailers in the world and the biggest in the UK, has data about everything we have. And I'm sure Carrefour, here in Saudi Arabia or all over the world, is having an amazing database with all the records. Records about sales, about inventory and products, about transport, warehousing, everything really is there. But equally, data analytics, not about company data, it's about data in the macro environment. Data around economy, inflation, exchange rates, transport data, regulations, geopolitical data. Again, try to make sense of the environment in the company and the macro, the external environment. So, AI models in supply chain analytics. There are different models here. I don't want to make it very technical and complicated, but discussing about machine learning. Again, something has been around for some time. So with machine learning, for example, we can cluster our customer suppliers, which are the big customers to focus, or the key accounts, as we say sometimes, Try to make some statistical analysis, regression analysis, or correlation analysis. Try to predict about sales and pricing. So, for example, if you change the price, how the impact on sales, and it's like price elasticity, demand elasticity can kick in. Dynamic pricing in a way, try to change your price very continuously and see the impact on demand, consumer demand. Can be different models, language models, try to understand your customer reviews and try to interpret the impact on your organization. Can be about analyzing revenues or sales. Particularly, you may get images and try to analyze them. Images about the warehouse, and you can navigate the warehouse nowadays with some virtual platforms. How to track inventory, again, some platforms can be very important here. There are different approaches here how to make that happen. And of course, something we discuss in supply chains, some of you may have heard the SCORE model. The SCORE model is a classic model we use in supply chains. Try to understand the planning, the sourcing, the production, distribution, and sales. And equally, you have different platforms to apply here. You have digital twins, which I'll discuss in a minute, what it's all about. You have control towers, again, platforms who manage data. And of course, in the real context, you try to understand your suppliers, how to select the best supplier, how to manage contracts, how to predict and analyze scheduling, transport scheduling, or production scheduling, manage warehouses, how to provide the best routes in transportation, and try to have dynamic pricing, if you want, to make it easier for your customers. Now, saying about digital twins, here we are, and something is becoming extremely popular nowadays, but again, it's not a new technology. We've been discussing about digital twins for the last 5 to 10 years, at least. So with a digital twin, to make it very simple, is we try through a virtual representation to present a physical entity, to have a supply chain become a virtual supply chain, and try in a way to use real-time data to understand better in that virtual environment any changes you'll be making, the impact on the real supply chain or the real environment. So you have a virtual platform, a digital twin, across the supply chain. You're getting the data, you analyze the data in the virtual environment, and then you can see that's an opportunity to make a difference in the real, the physical supply chain. That's what it's all about in a very simple way. And as you will see here in this slide, the many operations all over the world are applying digital twins. For example, in Netherlands, the port of Rotterdam, one of the biggest ports in the world, and definitely in the top 5 in Europe, has begun working very closely with IBM to apply this digital twin and try to understand how to improve operational efficiency. FedEx, a company which you may have heard on the biggest logistics provider in the world, is using, again, digital twins to optimize transportation aspects, and not only. UPS, another major logistics company, is using digital twins for its trucks and transportation hubs. So digital twins is something which will be used extensively all over the world, and it's an amazing platform, virtual platform, to support what you do. So AI, and how are using AI? Some examples which I think all of us understand, but many or very few of us understand that AI is behind that. So, for example, in a very, very modern traffic environment and modern transportation, we hover the plates in our vehicles, and with the right infrastructure in terms of cameras, the number, the plates can be recognized, and straight away, based on the data you have, the government or the local traffic officer can easily understand and predict the behavior of the driver, how many driving offenses they have done, how fast they'll be going. Everything is there, based again on the right information data available. Equally, digital voice assistant for the Google or Amazon or any others are here to help us. Netflix is giving you recommendation on a continuous basis, what to do, what film to watch, and so on. All of this based on AI infrastructure. So, discussing about urban logistics, because that's another part of my presentation, there are many examples of smart cities, and based on the data, the operations, and the technology you have, because for me these are interrelated, you can have efficiencies, and you can have transparency in supply chains. And therefore, you have the ability to have a very urban and popular environment. I'll give you here an example of Milton Keynes. Milton Keynes is a major city in the UK, very close to my university, Cranfield University, which has applied all these technologies and has autonomous operations. They try to have autonomous vehicles, autonomous buses, and other aspects which are not very modern anymore, but they used to be. So, moving on urban environments and last mile deliveries, and for me to be very clear, when I say last mile, I mean you make an order from Amazon or any internet company or internet retailer, and this is delivered to your house or to any location you would like. That's the last mile I'm referring to. And there are many challenges here. Nothing is perfect, as you can expect. Challenge around efficiency, challenge around profit margins, because operating last mile and internet deliveries can be very, very demanding and very expensive. Customer demands, and how many times you may have changed your mind 2-3 hours before the delivery and change your preference where to distribute the product, not your house, but somewhere else. It happens a lot, at least in Europe, the UK, North America. So to have this agility in your operations, the extra cost, and of course, interacting with the customer, who's the biggest challenge for me in last mile deliveries. So machine learning can kick in here, and again, because of the amount of data and how to analyze the data, all of these processes can make sense. For example, in terms of data preparation, having the right models to do the analysis, having the deployment of the right models, and then predict about changes in terms of behavior, make the right decisions about operations, and respond to what is required. Having all these processes in place, you have the ability to have extra accuracy in terms of deliveries, let's say, efficiency, you are more agile and flexible, and therefore you can have scalability. You have the ability to scale to a bigger amount of operations, to a bigger amount of data, to a bigger amount of customer deliveries as needed. And of course, from a business perspective, increased return on investment as required. So some examples here about last mile, and I've seen actually DHL's kiosk earlier on, and they have in front of them what I'm going to say right now, the green plan. We're going to have a look, actually. They're discussing about that in more detail in their kiosk. But for my presentation, the issue is here about the challenge, a challenge about urbanization and urban areas, about congestion, traffic, delivery demands. So you have AI-powered solutions here about not dynamic prices, but dynamic routes on optimization here, and how, based on real-time traffic data or weather, to be able to adapt and adjust your deliveries, to optimize all these activities, to reduce consumption, fuel consumption, to improve urban life, reduce emissions as well. So that's something which is a clever application through DHL called Green Plan. Another example from another country, from Singapore. Urban infrastructure planning. So the challenge here is about inefficient logistics networks in urban environments, and therefore, in Singapore, they have the ability to predict and provide the right maintenance for their logistics infrastructure for the road network and the infrastructure around that. So to be able to improve it, identify, let's say, any potholes or any challenge in the network, and trying to improve it as needed to enhance mobility for consumers, reduce any cost, and improve the allocation of resources in terms of trucks and vehicles. So AI behind that as well. Another application, in Beijing, in China, and New York. The challenge here is about congestion and urban mobility. So what they are doing, they have AI solutions which they try to synchronize that with traffic lights, so they adjust the traffic flows and the lights from red to green very quickly based on the flows. So it's meaningless to wait for 5-10 seconds on the red light if there's no vehicle. So they adjust very quickly and move it to green and be able to make it through AI systems. Not easy to happen, but it's happening already. Another example, Amazon. And I have huge respect for Amazon because they apply a lot of technologies here, and not only Amazon, many other companies too. But having said that, last mile delivery for Amazon is their bread and butter. That's what they are very successful at. But equally, they have all these drones, autonomous drones, which they can operate. And actually, Amazon operates drones nowadays in North America, in the US, depending on some challenge they have to overcome, of course. And they deliver parcels, as you'll see, to consumers in the US in quite a few states already, pending on approvals by the local state. Because in urban environments, deliveries with drones can be challenging in many times. Okay, so supply chain risks. Many of those, we live in a very uncertain and volatile environment, so there are risks around geopolitical uncertainties, wars, real wars, trade wars, regulation changes, cybersecurity threats, continuously being attacked in your company and being in trouble, labor skills and shortages of drivers, people in warehouses, and of course technologies are here to help with autonomous vehicles and robots, pandemics and health challenges. We know the impact of COVID-19, climate change around weather, big issue, a big issue on its own right, and of course sustainability. And the best companies try to make sustainability work for them, so in a way they try to apply some sustainability measures to overcome any challenges from weather or anything else in the future. So, we discuss about resilience, which is a huge topic, and as you will see with resilience, is very much understanding and identifying the risk. The next step is to evaluate or measure the risk. Then the next thing is try to mitigate, to minimize the risk based on the right strategy, and try to control the risk. And here, digital transformation is here to help. Collaboration between supply chain members is critical. How you design your supply chain is extremely important too. And there's a separate work around how to design the supply chain to overcome risks and improve resilience. Mapping the supply chain, understanding what your supply chain is all about, or the end-to-end supply chain, as we saw. And of course, sustainability as becoming a tool to improve resilience. So expecting some challenges with weather is not necessarily a bad thing, as long as you know that you implement mitigation and you try to improve this mitigation, improve resilience in the supply chain. So, a last example about resilience from a company or a retailer which is one of the biggest in the world. You may have heard about Walmart. And Walmart is applying supply chain resilience through digital transformation. This started a lot through the pandemic, through COVID-19, and nowadays in the strategy, they apply AI tools, okay, to forecast, to anticipate, to predict demand, and through Internet of Things, they manage to understand better their inventory. And we'll discuss about Walmart, one of the biggest, probably the biggest retailer in the world. We'll discuss about few thousand SKUs here, stock keeping product units. We're discussing about hundreds of thousands of SKUs. So the inventory aspect here is so challenging. And if you multiply the SKUs with the millions of itemized products, you're discussing about billion or trillion products on their own right. So managing inventory, it's difficult here. But they do that, and they have benefits around agility, reducing inventory stockouts, but more importantly, by collaborating, by having key partnerships with their major suppliers. That's what they do. Without a real partnership, you cannot make it happen. Okay, so that was my presentation. I hope you have found that interesting. If you want to get in touch with me, here are my details. my CLT email and my Cranfield email, and I'll be happy to meet you and connect with you later on. Thank you very much.